get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. And what a fantastic Friday it is. I got a guest who knows reefer freight better than probably anybody in the entire industry. And he's going to help us do our reefer lane breakdown analysis today. But before we jump into that, I got to bring him up, Mr. Cody Koehler, back on the show. Cody, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, always a pleasure, buddy.
Nah, man, it's dude, things are getting a little interesting out there right now. I'm always apprehensive to jump in one direction or another on a lot of stuff, but there's some early season tightness going on out there. I don't know if it's kind of across the country, but I look at it like we need change no matter what, right? Like if you want new opportunities, you need change of some sort to happen. So like, what are you seeing on your side of the fence?
Man, it's up and down. And honestly, it's like week to week, right? Like I don't know. There's so much volatility out there right now. And a lot of it's weather, related. Like this morning, I-80 was shut down, like there's big, massive snowstorm that came through. I think it was like Idaho, Utah, the Rockies, all that sort of stuff. So that, typically you start to see rates coming down out of the Pacific Northwest right now, and they have been, but now they're starting to climb back up this week because of that. And it's just all over the board, man. I mean, everything that's going on I think it's exasperating some of the capacity constraints. I don't think they're as bad, but they're definitely different, right? They're definitely different than the last 3 years that we've been going through, where it was almost, for lack of a better word, it was almost autopilot on a lot of stuff, right? Like you knew that you had ample capacity everywhere, and it was kind of just rates were just a race to the bottom. And it was like, could you survive on a lower margin than your competition because you knew you could cover the loads? And I think that's starting to change. It's getting back to brokering pre-COVID, right? Like I talked to some people about it and they have no idea what I'm talking about. You obviously do, though. Like brokering is fun. I mean, I enjoy it. Like it's fun. It is stressful, and it is something new every single day. And I think that after that downturn in 2022, most people just kind of got accustomed to being on autopilot. Yeah. And that's not brokering. You know that as well as I do. You're going to have weeks like this week. You're going to have those, as I like to call them, fuck it Fridays, right? Where you want to pull your hair out. Luckily I shave my head, but or else I'd pull my hair out. You have those days. And I think that a lot of people just, they didn't have those days the last couple of years. And it's, now it's been a shocker for them since December.
I think that I have identified that there are a lot of selective capitalists out there, Cody. There are a lot of people who only think they deserve to make money, and they get so offended when people ask for higher rates, and then they just instantly go to social media and complain about everything. And it's like, it's actually funny to see a broker break down what it should actually cost in fuel on a specific miles, because they did the math on what they're paying to fill up. Yeah. I'm like, you guys, the free market isn't only for your benefit. When like people, this is just the way things happen, right? Like, dude, you got to go out there and you just got to find a solution for your customers. And from my perspective, it's like, this is the market I grew up in, where it's like, man, there's going to be days where you're going to make 30, 40 outbound calls to take a $300 loss on a load, and that's just part of it, right? Like, I'm right there with you, Cody. I love the game more than anything, like I love freight. I love everything about it. And I'm like, this is the market. And like, if this prolongs and stays going on for a long time, this is the market like when I went back into business and started everything up in 2023, I thought it was going to happen in 2023, not 2026, but here we are,
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of opportunities. And Corey Buchan said that they got a foot of snow in Billings, Montana.
Yeah.
There was also a wildfire that shut down I-25 in Colorado yesterday. I had one of my drivers who got stuck in that for like a very long time. And yeah, so it's like, dude, there's a lot more, and that's why it's like I'm so apprehensive, Cody, to call one thing or another, because there's too many weather events that have happened that I can directly tie why things have happened. And that's why I always say, like, if you can go 60 days without any weather events, but rates continue to rise, that is a fair assessment at that point to be like, all right, it happened. And so, this, but I partnered with DAT. We do a This Week in Freight 3 times a week right now. We do dry van, flatbed, reefer. And for me, it's all about, all right, so things are going to happen. So what? We still got to move freight. To me, there's always consistency and stability in the market. People just don't want to look for it, right? And yeah, rates rise, but they stabilize as well, and they stay in the exact same spot. So this one today, there's been a lot of focus on Florida that has come through because these are all viewer submitted. So this one, it's Tampa, Florida to Cleveland, Ohio, that this came out. And I'm looking at this, and obviously it looks like April, May are the peak produce season in Florida.
It's flowers. It's Mother's Day.
Okay.
And Memorial Day. Sorry, Memorial Day and Mother's Day. So that's why it goes crazy, because a large portion of mums all come from, I believe it's South America. It's either South America or Central America, and they come through that Miami port. So there's a ton. The Miami port's the floral capital of America. So that's why May. You also have asparagus coming through there for the next 2 months. Most of that's coming from, I don't remember if it's Chile or it's somewhere down South America. But flowers drives that Florida market crazy.
And because like I'm looking at it now, because like I always look at everything on a rolling 12-month cycle, right? So if you're looking at this, is this essentially how throughout your history in moving reefer freight, this is how the outbound Florida market performs?
Oh yeah. And most of the time, like May, if you're not hedging on the side of the high side on DAT rates, you're going to get burned when it comes to reefers. So, May's crazy. I mean, there's days where there's just legitimately no capacity, like legitimate, because their demand goes through the roof in May. So
what are some of these things? Because if I'm looking at this, in 2025, it was, it was essentially $1,900 is what it was moving from Tampa to Cleveland for. But now this February, where there's like a $400 rate increase that was reported out of there. What key things do you tie that into specifically in, for the state of Florida?
So, I mean, obviously everything politically that's been going on, right? The non-domicile drivers, I think has been a major factor in, I think the 3 states that have been impacted the most is Florida, Texas, and Arizona. At least from my perspective, right? From the freight that we move, we've seen the largest impact out of those 3 states from drivers not wanting to go there, which obviously is going to diminish your capacity for outbound loads out of there. There's Florida, for example. I know when this whole non-domicile thing started, they had like legit checkpoints at the borders. Like if you were driving through there, it didn't matter what you look like, what truck you were in. They were checking you for papers. And a lot of people, it's not that they're not compliant. It's just, they just don't want that hassle. It's just like road check week, right? Yeah. A lot of people, it's not that their brakes are bad. Well, hopefully they're not anyways if they're on the road, but like, it's not that. It's just that they don't want to. I mean, there's been years on road check week, for example, where they have a 12-hour wait coming out of Salinas because there's so much outbound volume coming out of there. Those trucks just start piling up early in the morning. By the end of the day, if that's when you're leaving, there's a 12-hour wait for those guys to do their 30-minute check on every single truck. Right. And so I think that that's been the main catalyst, because we've seen pockets where rates are down from last year. And I know that probably not a lot of people are going to agree with me on that, but we have seen pockets where they are down, and we've seen pockets where they're substantially up, Florida being one of those markets. I know, I'm really good friends with Dean, and I follow all of his content. And I know a couple of weeks ago, we saw a major drop in Florida, and then all of a sudden it started spiking back up again last week. So I think a lot of that had to do with weather. Florida got some snow, which is very odd. Completely destroyed the berry crop out of there. They did not have a good produce season. I mean, from the ag estimates, from what I read, it was, in the billions of dollars in losses. So, I think that I think a lot of it's the political stuff that's going on right now. And, we're feeling it. We're both in the Valley. So like Arizona's been terrible. And it's not just, I got plenty of friends that move produce and move outbound freight out of Arizona. It's not just us. Everybody's, feeling that capacity crunch. It's kind of weird though, because if you look at like Nogales, for example, the volume out of Nogales is down substantially, especially with all the turmoil that was going on the last few weeks in Mexico. Yeah. But rates are still going through the roof because there's just no capacity.
Yeah. I guess if you're out there, specifically for Florida, because we're kind of on the early side of the flower push and everything that you're talking about, Mother's Day, Memorial, and all of that stuff, how should people prepare for this then? Are they like, if we're looking at last year's peak rate in May from Tampa to Cleveland at 28.50 essentially, how much of an increase would you advise people to possibly bake in with everything that's going on right now? Is it 15%, 20%? What, or is it
I'd be on the 20 to 30% side, to be honest with you. And that's, that's figuring just based off of what we've seen in the last 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair. Right. And I think that's what people need to be looking out for it's like, you can't necessarily go to your customers after the fact, like you got to start having these conversations beforehand about a lot of situations, because again, there's a lot more stability out there in the market than people want to make you believe, right? Like, and I say that in the sense of like markets essentially perform the same year in and year out. They're going to have a couple of peak seasons, and you got to ask yourself as a provider during that time, do you want to weather this storm, or do you want to risk the fact that there are other competitors out there that are willing to work for slim to none for a short period of time when that inevitable cliff starts to fall back off and this specific lane, that, all right, they got 60 days, maybe 90 days of freight where they're going to be probably breaking even on it, or maybe making 5%, but then it starts to slowly drop off. Where do you want to be after that drop off? And I think that that's what people need to start approaching when they're going out there and trying to build a book of business.
Yeah. And I mean, the people who can absorb those, I mean, and potentially they might be operating at a loss for those, for maybe May, but if you can have consistent freight out of Florida all year long and you lose 1 month out of the year, and at the end of the year, you're in the green. I mean, that's welcome to brokering, right? Like this isn't, you mentioned earlier, like there's some people that think that they have to make money on every single load. And look, everybody has a puke point. Every company has a puke point, and everybody's is different, how much losses they can absorb. But as a broker, you better be able to, if you feel like you can make $1,000 on a load, you better be comfortable losing $1,000 on one.
Yeah, shoot, I agree. That's it for this lane, you guys. Tampa, Cleveland, it's probably going to perform the same, but per Cody's advice, you should probably be looking in that 20 to 30% range in a rate increase from last year to this year, just due to the current environment and what's going on out there. If you want your lane broken down on the show, you guys, I need you to email my team, podcast@freightcoach.com. I don't need anything other than a shipping city, delivery city, and a trailer type. We'll take it from there. Again, we're here to help you guys remove this facade that it's just so hard to read a market. There are challenging times, yes, but there's a lot more stability out there than you think. So speaking of stability, Cody, what is, how are you preparing right now for what could eventually come down the pipe this year? Because, you brought up a couple of key points. Freight volumes are not up, capacity isn't necessarily leaving the market, I think, at levels that people want you to believe out there. So how are you guys working with your customers on a lot of is it like week by week, essentially like, hey, we're seeing this, or are you guys hey, this is where we're going to raise our rates to, we'll bring them back down when we can?
I think it's a mix of both depending on the customers, because I think every customer functions different, right? We've got some customers that are wanting us to put our optimistic foot forward with the understanding that that's a hope. And we can comply with that. I mean, RFPs are very difficult. No one has a magic 8 ball that knows where freight's going to be at in 6 months. Shippers, brokers, carriers, nobody does. So I think it's just managing your relationships. And I know I sound like a broken record because everybody fucking talks about that, right? Oh, it's all about relationships, but it really is. Yeah. It's being able to have those real conversations with people to say, look, the market's the market. I don't control the market. You don't control the market. Realistically, the carriers don't control, the owner operators don't control the market. It's all supply and demand. It's all part of our big economic beast, right? And the only thing we can do is react and communicate properly. If you're seeing tightening, excuse me, in certain areas, you don't want to be the last person to raise your hand. I'm not always the first person to raise my hand because I'm if we have a weather event, I'm not going to go to my customers for a day and say, oh my gosh, we lost money today. It's like, okay, cool. Welcome to brokering. Yeah. But if it's sustained, and you're reaching that peak point, like I said, everybody needs to understand from an accounting standpoint how much you can absorb as just being part of doing business. And once you're getting close to that, you got to have those conversations. I think that most shippers, I was a shipper for 12 years, right? And they are understanding. They understand that price increases happen. And then as a broker, you got to understand that price decreases are going to happen sometimes too. Yeah. So, contracts are great, but we always refer to freight contracts as pseudo contracts, right? Like they look good on paper, but they're going to be very dependent on how the market reacts. And I've had plenty of customers in the past who have said, hey, I know the market's down 20%. I need to renegotiate. Okay, cool. Those are the same customers that when the market goes up 20%, you can go renegotiate. And then I've had customers who are straight black and white and said, nope, no renegotiating. If you're going to make a killing off of me for 6 months, go for it. But you're going to take in the pants for 6 months too on the next go around. So I think preparing is just understanding how to have those conversations. It's not all about just, hey, I got to pass through these rate increases. You send off an email to them. Hey, these are your new freight rate increases starting on Monday. That is the worst thing you can do. Best thing you can do is pick up the phone and talk to them, explain the reasons why. Chances are they probably know already, because if they work with multiple brokers, you're probably not going to be the only one. But just communicate, make sure that your shippers are in the know. We like to send out monthly reports. I don't know if you follow Bella, but she sends out a monthly truckload report. We send out specific ones to customers as well that kind of highlight their lanes that we're doing with them and just keep them in the know. We feed them as much data as we can. The one thing that's crazy to me is we work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and you would be amazed at how many of those guys are very sheltered from like DAT and from some of this stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that at all, because like I think a lot of people fail to realize that they're not as informed as you would think, right? Like their job is to manufacture goods, right? At the end of the day, I had a customer of mine tell me once. He's like, Chris, I expect you to tell me these things because that's why I hire you. He's like, I'm not a freight guy. I'm a manufacturer of this. He's like, I hired you to tell me these things. So if you see this stuff, let us know about it. And I think one thing people need to understand going into some of these times, like you're talking about like rate increases and stuff like that. I think it's very important to honor the rates that you had quoted, even if it's like 2 weeks ago, even if the market increased. I think it's very important for you to honor those rates in that transition. And then again, after you increase your pricing for whatever, lanes that you're moving, I think that's when you take it, take the rate increase. I don't think you backtrack any of that stuff to kind of bring that up. And I mean, for me, I'm just more about the long term. Like I've just seen so many ups and downs happen, Cody, where it's like, hey, if I told you I was going to move for 1900, I'm going to honor it at 1,900, even if the new rate that we had talked about is at 2,200 now. You know, I think it's very important to honor that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's whatever you have basically in the hopper, right? Like you better honor your rates on those, and then have those discussions going forward for, you know, some contract freight that's a year out. That one's tough, right? Like those are tough because nobody knows where the market's going to be in a year. You're just using the data to come up with your best rate, and some people can take those losses and some people can't. But I think that whatever you guys are running, especially when it comes to spot, I know you move a lot of spot, right?
Yes.
And spot, you know, it depends on what commodity you're moving. Sometimes spot's a week out, sometimes spot's an hour from now. You better be honoring your rates. I mean, I think once again, it goes back to just depending on your customer base. There's some customers that they want to see an RFP with the best possible price, knowing that there's going to be adjustments throughout the entire RFP. And then there's some that just want realistic rates. And those realistic rates might not look good on paper for that 6 months because the market's up. So but I do too. I mean, like the last thing you don't want to be that broker that you quote something and then your second load you move with them, you're like, oh, sorry, I was wrong. You know, like that's the quickest way to lose a customer. And it's customers are hard to come by, even when the market gets tight. I know that everybody thinks that like it's super easy to make sales when capacity's tight. It's still not. And it's easier, but it is not. They're not knocking down your door. You know, I'm sure you're in the same boat as me. I get all of my my spam email from fake people claiming to be companies. Those are not real. If you're getting those, like there is no shipper. I can guarantee you, there is no shipper outside of maybe specialty guys that are actively looking on Google to find people, right?
Dude, even in that, like it's funny because it's like I see all the headlines just like everybody does, right? And it's like, tender rejections for flatbeds are at like almost 50%. I'm like, that doesn't mean there's new opportunities. That doesn't mean shippers will take your phone call. Like I hate to break it to you, right? I look at it is, again, if we're looking at overall freight volumes, when people reject their tenders, their contracted rates, they're trying to catch it in the spot market is all, because they bid low. They're trying to reject it. They're hoping everybody else in network rejects it as well. And then it has to go out into the spot market. I think we are, barring a catastrophic event, we are 12 months away from shippers even thinking about looking outside of their current network. I am convinced. Again, I hope I'm wrong. Freight Coach Logistics would exponentially benefit if I am wrong here. I have an assumption that they're going to deal with their current network for the rest of this year. A lot of the larger, higher volume shippers are like, they're locked in. They don't want to make changes. They're not going to make changes. They'll deal with it. And then at bid season this December, I think things could look a lot different then. But again, you can't just start selling in November with that, right? Like you got to be calling people throughout the year. And that's my biggest thing. Like right now, when people ask about cold calling and everything else, I'm like, if you make 30 calls in a day, 25 companies aren't even answering their phone. Operator, nobody's answering the phone. Out of the 5 people you get on the phone, you're lucky to get one decision maker to even answer at that point, right? So it's like, but again, you got to keep going through that because you just never know. You're going to catch the right person at the right time that you might get your shot. And I think most individuals wait until things are at that point. And then they're like, oh, I got to start selling now. They're like, but there's too many other sharks out there who have been calling for years, hoping to get that one shot. They're way ahead of you.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm not going to name the name of this Fortune 500 company that I prospect all the time, but their rejection, which is like every month, right, literally states in there, when we are ready to onboard new brokers and carriers, the ones that have shown the most interest, AKA how many times have you filled out your shipper or your carrier profile, those are the ones that are going to get onboarded. So I just have a cadence with certain people. I know that I'm going to get my rejection email 2 days after I fill out everything. I still fill it out every 2 weeks, and I'm going to do that for the next 5 years. Like it's just, and building your brand helps a lot too. I have had shippers reach out, landed customers from LinkedIn, because you do build a brand, right? And when they know you and they trust you, and they have one of those fuck it Fridays where they're like, I know for a fact, Chris talked about this lane last week. I guarantee he can move this for me. And my current network has failed. I'm going to give Chris a call. Yep. So like those do happen. They're rare, but they do happen. And you have to put a lot of emphasis on building your brand to be able to do that. But, you're absolutely right. Now is the time. You gotta, they need to know that you're not just an auto-generated email out of Zoom Info or Apollo or some shit like that, right? They need to know that you're a real person. Go meet with people, knocking on doors, meeting people in person. I'm the type of person that I can't go shopping without, like, if I see a decision maker when I'm shopping at Costco, I'm going to go talk to them. Like, that's just how I am. Right. You got to do that. And you are absolutely right. Right now is that moment in the market where it's better for a shipper to just have a 5% increase with their current network than it is to go outside of their current network, as long as the service level's there. Yeah. If you're a broker right now and you're pushing loads because you think rates are going to be better, if you're pushing a Friday load to a Monday because you think rates will be better and your customer can just deal with it, that's the quickest way to get kicked out of a network. I think it was Eric Williams I think it was a couple weeks ago, posted and just said, look, I know it was a bad Friday. It was when one of the snowstorms hit. Yeah. If you're pushing loads because you think you're going to make more money on Monday, he's like, just take the losses today and move on. And that's real. Take your losses today. You're going to live to fight another day, right? Like, that's the whole point. Do not have service failures. Do not be one of those guys that, when I talk to a shipper that we're currently working with, this conversation happened yesterday with a shipper. Straight up says, hey, my guy on this lane, this Yuma lane, he just didn't pick up 2 of my loads this week. So guess what's going to happen to that guy? That guy's going to get, axed out of the network. And if it's a rate issue, have that conversation. If it's just you don't have capacity, probably you should look in the mirror and figure out why you don't have capacity for something that you bid on contract. But those are the things that you just don't do. Even in this market.
I was going to say, what advice would you give to somebody who can't buy a truck? What if there's a lane out there right now where they got it up, it's a substantial loss, but they can't even get anybody to commit to it at all? What is your advice for somebody in that situation?
Bad news gets worse with time. Call your customer. I mean, there's been times in the past that's happened to all of us, I think, right? And the most important thing is don't call them when if you're supposed to pick up at noon and you're calling them at 11:30, that's the worst thing you can do. You better be calling those guys at 9 o'clock in the morning saying, look, I'm struggling. I'm still going to work on this between now and noon. But if you have another option, take it. I've had that conversation several times, right? Like, hey guys, there's something going on right here. So get your feelers out there. And if you can find another truck, no harm, no foul. Yeah. And shippers do understand those happen. I mean, if you're doing that every Friday, just because you can't cover a truck, you're probably not going to work with those guys very long. But if it happens every now and then, and you're upfront with it, and you give them time to find a plan B, then, it's not as bad on you guys. So just be upfront with it. You don't want to be that guy that just doesn't show up for your pickup.
Yeah. We have a 7 a.m. day of pickup rule on that. If we're struggling, we'll establish contact with them via email, 7 a.m. And then we will call them and just be like, all right, this is where we're at, and again, I just think multiple updates is the only way to go with it. Like, there are going to be times, even in whether it's a loose capacity market type, there are times that it is going to be a struggle to find capacity. And again, like I talk about people all the time on, like, even the lane analysis is the miles matter for a weekend. If it's a short haul, you better have a lot of money in that to buy somebody's time for that, especially in a tighter pocket. If that happens. But again, you guys, communication is your greatest asset as a transportation provider. Your ability to have a difficult conversation. Nobody wants to delay, nobody wants to fail on freight, but it happens. It's part of the game. We're all gonna, it's all gonna get there eventually. I just think of how you communicate your failures is what keeps you in the door. But then, to your point, Cody, it can't be every fucking week, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, then you're just not reliable. But asset guys do it too, right? Like, I mean, if you have only one truck in the area, and say you're an asset company, you don't have a brokerage MC, and you only have one truck in the area, and the turbo goes out on it, like you call that customer and just say, look, I don't have an asset. You guys got to find a plan B. But you know, it happens, and it's not the end of the road for you guys. But you know, to your point earlier about a customer saying, this is what I hired you for. You know, I've got a customer that moves about $2 billion annually in freight, and it's a 3-person team. They're moving, you know, hundreds of loads a day. Dang. And they work with people like us because they know that we're an extension of them. If they didn't work with people like you or like me, they would have to have a team of 15 people probably, and they just don't want that on their P&L. So they would rather work with us. And it is our job to be an extension of our customers. I
agree. Cody, thank you so much for your time, man.
No problem.
As you guys can tell, this is why I love having actual operators on the show, because it's just the advice that some of you guys like want to pay for. We just talk about it for free on the show because like we actually move freight. We actually build businesses and everything. And we just want to put the best practices out there because, again, we've all been through tight markets. Well, for the most of us, at least myself and Cody, we've been through tight markets, pockets of tightness, rate changes, all of that stuff. It's not as challenging as you think to navigate through it, but you got to navigate through it. It's a great lesson to learn, and that's how you do it. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything.